Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Debbie with Evolve Global 22's Healing Light Studio and our Healing Circle. Feel Better Daily. It is a new week and a new beginning. And this week I have for you your future self stack. 4 episodes where we are going to get into developing and meeting your future self and how we do that. Now, just a reminder, I'm doing voice for now due to a bunch of dental work, and that's going to be probably for another 3 weeks or so. So bear with me. I don't want to come on here looking all crazy from dental work. And then also be reminded that as of last week, I put all 4 episodes in one stream. I stream it each night, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have everything in one place for easy access. And then you have your work embedded, your journal prompts, and various things along the way that will develop so that you can work on you and your healing, health, and wellness, and you can feel better daily. So let's get into this week, your future self stack. So, my friends, episode 1 is meeting your future self, the science of long-term thinking. And I have a question. Have you ever made a decision, skipped the workout, blown the budget, put off the hard conversation, and thought, future me will deal with it? What if I told you that that's not just a figure of speech? Neuroscience shows your brain may actually treat your future self as a completely different person. And that changes everything about how we build a better life. Psychologist Hal Hershfield at UCLA has spent years studying something called future self continuity. Essentially, how connected you feel to the person you'll be in 10, 20, or 30 years. Using brain imaging, his research found that when people think about their present self, a region called the rostral anterior cingulate cortex lights up, the same region active during self-related thinking. But when people think about their future self, for many people, that region activates more like it does when they think about a stranger. Individual differences in that present versus future self brain activation actually predicted real financial behavior measured a week later. My friends, this matters because of something economists call temporal discounting, the tendency to value a smaller reward now over a larger reward later, simply because later feels less real. And here's the key finding. People with a stronger sense of connection to their future self are more inclined to make long-term plans and are more willing to choose delayed but greater rewards, while those with a weaker sense of that connection are more likely to chase immediate gratification. In large-scale studies with thousands of participants, this pattern held up. People who felt more connected to their future selves showed measurably reduced financial impulsivity and higher accumulated savings, even after accounting for age, income, and education. In other words, this isn't a discipline problem, it's a relationship problem. Specifically, your relationship with someone you haven't met yet. This is a key takeaway, guys. The challenge is that your future self is abstract. You can't see them, hear them, or feel their consequences in real time. So your brain quietly treats them as an optional consideration. The solution, my friends, the research points to a surprisingly simple fix. Make your future self vivid. Hershfield's own studies used age progression imagery, literally showing people a rendering of their older face, and found it increased future-oriented financial choices. You don't need special software for this. You can do a version of this yourself. Write a letter to yourself 10 years from now. Not a to-do list, a real letter. What do you hope they're grateful you did today? Get specific about their life. Don't think future me. Picture a Tuesday in their life. Where do they live? What does their morning look like? Vague future selves are easy to ignore. Vivid ones are much harder to abandon. And revisit that imagery regularly, even weekly. Continuity isn't built in one sitting, it's built through repeated contact. This exercise isn't only about money. Your future self is a whole person, so let's meet them across every dimension. So, physically, what does your future self's body feel like because of choices you're making now? Are they strong, mobile, well rested because you built movement and recovery into today? Mentally, is your future self's mind clear, focused, resilient? That's built through the same small repeated choices: protecting sleep, managing stress, feeding your brain well. Emotionally, is your future self more regulated, more secure, more at peace than you are today? Emotional healing compounds too. Every time you choose self awareness over avoidance, you're building toward them. Financially, and yes, financially, is your future self free from the low grade anxiety of scarcity? Are they able to make choices from stability rather than survival? That security isn't luck. It's built the same way everything else on this list is: one small, vivid, future oriented decision at a time. Your future self isn't just wealthier or busier, they're healthier, calmer, more whole, and every dimension is being shaped by today, whether you're paying attention to it or not. I'd encourage you to build a small ritual around this reflection. Maybe a quiet morning moment with your Agara cafe or MachAgara while you sit with your future self exercise, letting that warm, calming start to your day become the backdrop for thinking beyond today. Diffuse and apply doTERRA cypress essential oil while you journal. This can help you too. It's often associated with a sense of grounded forward movement, which fits perfectly with the theme of this practice. Your future self isn't a stranger you owe nothing to. They're you, just not yet. The more real they become in your mind, the more naturally today's choices start honoring them. So let's talk about 4 key takeaways from this episode 1. Before we move into tomorrow, let's lock in the 4 things to carry with you. Number 1, your brain may genuinely process your future self as a stranger, which is why long-term choices can feel so hard. This isn't a discipline problem, it's a connection problem. Number 2, vividness changes everything. The more specific and real your future self feels, the more naturally your present choices start to honor them. Number 3, this isn't only financial. Your future self's physical health, mental clarity, and emotional well being are all being shaped by today's choices, too. And number 4, continuity is built through repeated contact, not a single exercise. Revisit your future self regularly. Hold on to that connection because tomorrow we're going deeper into why it's so hard to actually act on it, the brain science of delayed gratification, and what's really happening in your reward system when money's on the line. Episode 2, Delayed Gratification and the Brain's Reward System. Why does it feel almost physically uncomfortable to leave money in savings when there's something you want right now? It's not weakness, it's your brain's reward system doing exactly what it evolved to do. And today we're breaking down how to work with it instead of against it. We touched on dopamine's role in motivations in past series, but here's the money specific piece. Your brain evolved in an environment where immediate resources were often genuinely more valuable than uncertain future ones. Food today mattered more than a hypothetical meal next month. That wiring didn't disappear just because we now deal with retirement accounts instead of berries. This shows up as temporal discounting, and researchers have found it isn't just an economic tendency. It's shaped directly by how connected you feel to your future self. The same future self continuity research from yesterday's episode found something striking. Guiding people to focus more on their imagination and meaning of their future selves effectively reduced their time discount rate, meaning delayed rewards started to feel more compelling, not less. There's also a psychological distance effect at play. Research shows that people's sense of when the present ends varies from person to person. And when people perceive a shorter present, meaning they draw the line between now and the future sooner, they consistently make more future oriented choices, even when the outcomes and incentives are identical. In other words, some people have, in effect, drawn the boundary of now too generously, and everything inside that boundary feels fair game for spending. The challenge, my friends, is that delayed gratification is usually taught as a willpower contest, but willpower is a limited, fatiguing resource. You can't out white knuckle a lifetime of financial decisions. Instead of fighting the urge in the moment, shrink the psychological distance to your future reward, the same way we shrunk the distance to your future self yesterday. Name your savings goals specifically and attach them to a vivid outcome. Not emergency fund, but the fund that means I never have to panic if my car breaks down. Specificity recruits more emotional weight than an abstract number. Create a short pause protocol for non-essential spending, even 24 hours before a purchase over a threshold you set. This isn't about deprivation, it's about interrupting the automatic reach so your more reflective thinking gets a chance to weigh in. And track small wins visibly. Every time you choose the delayed reward, you're providing evidence to your brain that the future self is worth investing in, and that evidence compounds. This muscle isn't just financial, it's the same muscle across every part of your life. Physically, delayed gratification is choosing the workout over the coach. Physically, delayed gratification is choosing the workout over the couch, the vegetables over the drive-thru, the early bedtime over one more episode. Every not right now builds the same neural pathway. Mentally, it's finishing the hard, focused task instead of switching to something easier and more stimulating. Mental delayed gratification is what makes deep, meaningful work possible. Now let's talk about emotionally. It's sitting with a hard feeling instead of numbing it, or pausing before reacting instead of firing off the textual regret. Emotional regulation is delayed gratification applied to your inner world. And then financially, my friends, and of course, it's choosing to save, invest, or wait instead of spending to soothe the feeling in the moment. Here's the encouraging part. Strengthening this muscle in one area tends to strengthen it everywhere else. Practice the pause with money, and you'll likely find it easier to pause elsewhere too. This is a great moment to build a small ritual substitution. When the urge to make an impulse purchase hits, try making yourself an Agara cafe or MachAgara instead and sitting with the 24-hour pause. It gives your brain a small, immediate reward that doesn't compromise the larger one. And doTERRA's frankincense applied to your wrist during a moment of financial decision making is often used as a grounding oil for clarity and intentionality, a nice physical cue to slow down and think it through. Your reward system isn't broken, and this isn't about suppressing every present desire. It's about making your future rewards feel real enough to compete. Our 4 takeaways in episode 2. Before tomorrow, let's lock these in. Number 1, your brain evolved to favor immediate rewards, so pull toward instant gratification isn't a personal failing, it's ancient wiring. Number 2, shrinking psychological distance to your future reward makes it easier to choose, whether that's through specificity or a simple pause protocol. Number 3, delayed gratification is one muscle used across physical, mental, emotional, and financial choices. Strengthening it in one area strengthens it everywhere. And number 4, this isn't about suppressing every desire. It's about making the future reward feel real enough to genuinely compete with the present one. Hold on to that muscle, because tomorrow we're talking about why the small, seemingly insignificant decisions matter more than the big dramatic ones, and the real math behind compounding outcomes. Episode 3, my friends, small decisions, compounding outcomes. We tend to think transformation comes from big, dramatic decisions, the huge investment, the total overhaul, the all or nothing leap. But almost everyone who's actually built something lasting will tell you it was the small, boring, repeated decisions that did the real work. Today, we're talking about why. Compounding is a mathematical principle, but its power is almost counterintuitive to the human brain because our intuition is linear, not exponential. When you're picturing growth, your brain naturally imagines steady, additive progress. This much effort in, roughly that much result out. But compounding growth looks flat for a long time and then curves sharply upward. Most people abandon the process during the flat part right before the curve would have started to bend, not because the strategy failed, but because it didn't look like it was working yet. This connects directly back to future self-continuity. Remember, the research shows people with a weaker sense of connection to their future self shows steeper discounting of future rewards. They're not just less willing to wait, they also struggle to trust that small present actions are actually accumulating into something. Without a vivid sense of the future self who benefits, the flat part of the compounding curve feels like proof that nothing is happening, rather than the necessary expected phase of a non-linear process. There's also decision fatigue. So when we talk about the decision fatigue angle, it's worth naming. Consistency of small decisions is actually more sustainable than intensity of occasional big ones, precisely because small decisions require less willpower to execute repeatedly. A choice you only have to make once, automating a savings transfer, for example, removes the daily contest between present and future self entirely. The challenge is that small decisions don't feel significant enough to take seriously, so people wait for the big move, the raise, the windfall, the perfect financial plan, before they start taking the process seriously at all. The solution, my friends, automate what you can so the decision only has to be made once, not daily. Removing repeated willpower demands is one of the most well-supported behavioral strategies for consistency. Track process, not just outcome, especially in the flat part of the curve. If you're only measuring the result, the early unremarkable stretch will feel like failure. Measuring your consistency, did I do the small thing again today, keeps you engaged with what's actually working. And revisit your future self image from episode 1 regularly, specifically during the flat, unglamorous stretch. This is exactly when the vividness of that future person matters most, because it's when the present moment offers the least evidence that anything is changing. Compounding isn't unique to money. It's how every kind of healing and growth actually works. So let's talk physically. One workout doesn't transform your body. 1,000 ordinary ones do. The same is true for sleep, hydration, and nutrition. Invisible day to day, undeniable over months. Mentally, one moment of mindfulness does not rewire your stress response. Consistent small practices, a breath, a pause, a boundary, compound into genuine mental resilience over time. Emotionally, healing rarely happens in one breakthrough. It happens in the small, repeated choice to be honest with yourself, to sit with a feeling instead of avoiding it, to show up for the same inner work again and again. And then financially, it's the same principle we've been building all week. Small, consistent contributions, given enough time, are what actually builds security and freedom. Wherever you are in your healing or growth right now, if it feels flat and slow, that's not a sign to stop. That's usually a sign you're exactly in the part of the curve right before it bends. A steady daily ritual, the same cup of Agara Cafe or MachAgara at the same point in your morning routine, is itself a small example of this principle. One repeated, unremarkable choice compounding into a steady, grounded start to every day. And doTERRA's wild orange used consistently during the same ritual can help train your brain to associate that quiet moment with optimism about what's ahead. Small, repeated, and compounding, just like the decisions we're talking about today. You don't need dramatic turning points. You need a small, repeatable decision and enough trust in your future self to keep making it through the flat part of the curve. So let's talk about the 4 takeaways. Before tomorrow, let's not forget these and carry these with you. Number 1, compounding growth is naturally flat for a long time before it curves upward, and most people quit right before the curve bends. Number 2, automating small decisions removes the daily willpower contest and makes consistency far more sustainable. Number 3, the same compounding principle applies to physical, mental, and emotional healing, not just money. Number 4, a flat, quiet stretch isn't proof something isn't working. It's usually a sign you're exactly where you need to be in the process. Hold on to that trust, because tomorrow we're closing out the stack by bringing everything together. How to actually live today in alignment with the future you're building toward. Welcome, friends, to episode 4, Living Today in Alignment with Where You're Headed. We've talked about meeting your future self, working with your brain's reward system, and trusting small decisions to compound. Today, we bring it all together into one question. What does it actually look like to live in alignment with where you're headed, starting today? Let's connect the research threads. Future self-continuity isn't just a nice psychological concept. It directly predicts real financial outcomes, including reduced impulsive spending, higher savings rates, and greater accumulated assets over time, even when controlling for income and education. That last part matters. This isn't simply a proxy for having more money to begin with. It's a genuinely separate psychological factor that shapes outcomes on its own. Researchers have identified a few reasons long-term decisions are so difficult. Individual differences in willpower and upbringing, genuine difficulty imagining and accurately forecasting future emotional states, and the piece we focused on this week, how connected people feel to their future selves. Alignment then isn't a personality trait some people have and others don't. It's a skill built through the specific practices we've covered: vivid future self-imagery, shrinking psychological distance to future rewards, and trusting small compounding decisions even when they don't feel significant yet. There's one more piece worth naming. Alignment isn't about constant, effortful restraint. The research on temporal discounting suggests that once future self-continuity is strong enough, future-oriented choices start to feel less like sacrifice and more like an obvious extension of who you already are. The goal isn't willpower forever. It's identity shift until saving, investing, and choosing the long game simply becomes what you do, not something you have to talk yourself into each time. The challenge is that alignment can feel like an all or nothing identity. You're either a future focused person or you're not, when really it's built through the accumulation of the exact practices we've walked through this week. The solution, my friends, is this. Revisit your future self letter from episode 1 monthly, not just once. Continuity is built through repeated contact, not a single exercise. Build one automated compounding habit, even something small like a recurring transfer, so consistency doesn't depend on your daily willpower, echoing what we covered in episode 3. When you're tempted by an immediate reward that conflicts with where you're headed, use the shrinking distance tools from episode 2. Get specific about what the delayed reward actually means to you and give yourself a short pause before deciding. And here's a piece of alignment people often overlook. Be open to diversification, even into positions or paths that aren't immediately desirable and that may sit outside your current employment arena or skill set. Growth toward your future self rarely arrives as a straight line from where you are now. It often means being willing to build new relationships, learn new skills, specifically skills you don't have yet, and take the time to grow into opportunities before you feel fully ready for them. The future self you're building toward may need you to say yes to something today that doesn't look like where you're headed, but it's quietly the path there. Most important, let this be an ongoing relationship, not a one-time reset. Your future self isn't a finish line. There's someone you're in an evolving conversation with, one small decision at a time. Living in alignment touches every part of you, not just your finances. Let's talk about what this looks like holistically. Physically, alignment means your daily choices around movement, rest, and nourishment reflect the vitality you want your future self to have. Mentally, it means protecting your focus and your peace today because your future self's clarity is built from today's habits of mind. Emotionally, it means doing the honest, sometimes uncomfortable work of self awareness now because your future self's emotional freedom depends on what you're willing to look at today. And financially, it means letting your daily financial choices, spending, saving, the opportunities you say yes or no to, reflect the security and freedom you're building toward. True alignment, my friends, isn't perfection in any one of these areas. It's noticing gently and consistently where today's version of you and tomorrow's version of you are walking the same direction. As you close out this, As we close out this stack, I'd invite you to build a weekly check-in ritual. Maybe Sunday morning, a warm Agara cafe or matcha Agara in hand, a few minutes with your future self letter, and a moment to notice which small decisions this week moved you closer to them. Diffusing doTERRA's balance or applying it topically on your wrists, bottom of your feet, back of your neck during the reflection can help anchor a feeling of groundedness and steady forward motion. A fitting close to a stack all about the long game. You don't have to overhaul your life to build a future you're proud of. You have to meet your future self, understand your brain's reward system, trust the small decisions, stay open to your unexpected paths, and keep showing up in alignment, one ordinary day at a time. Now let's lock in the 4 things to carry forward from this final episode. Number 1, alignment isn't a personality trait, it's a built skill, assembled from vivid future self imagery, shrinking psychological distance, and trusting compounding decisions. Number 2, growth often isn't a straight line. Being open to unexpected skills, relationships, and opportunities is part of genuinely living in alignment. Number 3, alignment shows up physically, mentally, and emotionally, not just financially. It's about your whole self walking in the same direction as your future self. And number 4, this is an ongoing relationship, not a one-time reset. Revisit your future self regularly and let the conversation continue. That, my friends, is the future self stack completed. 4 episodes, 1 thread. The person you're becoming is built by the person you're being today. I'd love to hear which episode landed the most for you. And as always, the real work happens in the journaling, not just the watching. So now, my friends, if you have found this content helpful, please hop on over to Patreon and become a member to our Feel Better Daily community. There is so much there for you, and we are a community who strives to feel better every day. It's only $7.99 a month. And then, as always, the links to my doTERRA essential oil website and the Agara Cafe and MachAgara are also given in the description, as well as in the first comment. Do yourselves a favor. Start building your medicine cabinet with essential oils, specifically doTERRA's, and start the MachAgara or Agara Cafe. It is phenomenal. On that note, peace, love, and light to all. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the circle.